This is Missy Lynx, and you're listening to the Indie Sports Car Podcast.
Welcome, ICP fans, to another episode of the Indie Sports Car Podcast. Hey, Missy.
Hello. And I will introduce our two guests tonight. Starting, we have Sean Yoder back on the show, who is the 0 to 60 radio host and also the writer and social media manager for Modern Mopar Magazine. Welcome back, Sean.
Amazing job on Modern Mopar Magazine. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for being back. And we also have back on the show, Richard Yowden. Uden.
Yep. I just learned that.
And engineer extraordinaire.
Thanks for having me back on. Thank you. Hope everybody had a good New Year.
Oh, definitely did. How was yours?
It was quiet, but good.
Yeah, a buddy of mine was in Phoenix. He's like, yeah, I went out at 12 o'clock and I just heard a bunch of guns going off, so I ran back in the house.
Yeah.
So quiet's good.
Quiet is definitely good. Ours was crazy quiet.
Heck yeah. And then it became 2018. I'm like, I don't feel any different.
Big anticlimax, isn't it?
Yeah.
The only good news is January is we get to look forward to Daytona. That's a good thing. So.
Exactly. It's coming up, 3 days, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, weekend, yeah.
You do realize that Christmas is always tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
It's insane. It's that's how fast life is going by right now. Like Christmas happens, and then all of a sudden, hey, did you get your Christmas shopping done yet?
Yeah, really, man. You always remember those big times you dump a bunch of cash.
Try not to do
that. But it's interesting, when you work in the racing industry, it is like that. Every year, you can pretty much pick out the time of year to almost to the week by what work you're doing or what project you're working on, because it is such a repetitive industry.
And if it's December, you're working on nothing. So.
Oh, no. December's the busiest month of the year because you're getting everything ready.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the crew doesn't stop, right? It's just the drivers that stop.
You probably November's in the NASCAR world anyway. Sort of November, December, January, and then a little bit of February is the busiest time of the year. So when you get into sort of June, July, August, it's pretty repetitive and monotonous, and it just goes with the flow. But no, winter time for engineers and race teams is pretty hectic. If you're not building stuff, you're designing stuff and get it sent out for manufacture. It gets pretty crazy out there.
That makes perfect sense. I come at it from the other side. I've been, for the last decade, I've been instructing with Porsche and Fiat Chrysler and traveling all over the place with those guys. And high-performance driving events don't really happen in December, so that's why I've been sitting on my butt. That's how that's worked.
But that's cool, man. Working with... What'd you say, Porsche?
Porsche for about 3 years, and then Fiat Chrysler for a little over 6 years, actually. I worked on their SRT programs and their Fiat Abarth programs and product expert, and just traveled all over the country teaching people how to drive Vipers and Hellcats. It was not a bad way to earn a living.
No, I'd say that's a great way.
Speaking of Fiat Chrysler automobiles.
Speaking of which.
Roll into it.
Yeah, there's a little rumor that they are thinking about coming over to IndyCar. But of course, Jay Fry wouldn't confirm. That was one of the manufacturers he was talking to, trying to bring someone over. But
we need a third we need a third engine so bad.
The question for me, being sort of on the periphery of IndyCar and following it from a fan's perspective rather than an insider's perspective like you guys are, why haven't Mazda just got their act together and just gone as a full-time engine manufacturer, because they've got the Road to Indy series and all this sort of stuff. They're almost doing everything apart from the most logical next step.
I think they're kind of happy where they are. I mean, like I also thought Mazda was going to be like almost a shoe-in for the third, because I was expecting 4 for this season coming up, and I thought Mazda was going to be just a shoe-in, but it seems like Mazda just has no interest in moving up past Indy Lights. They kind of like what they got going right now.
It's almost like they've done all the hard work. And
Yeah.
it's like, come on, guys, you can do it. You can just this next step. Come on, and it'd be great for the sport. I'm sure it would, give it a little bit more exposure as well. It's always good to have that competitiveness between engine manufacturers, and I think it's something it needs.
I'm just kind of wondering, is it a powertrain development issue with those guys? Just because, I mean, you look at their DPI program and their LMP2 program before that, and they have been down on power for so long. Are they worried that they just don't have the power to compete in IndyCar? It would take a completely new development cycle for a powertrain, right?
Oh, for sure. But typically, from an engineering standpoint, once you've got those guys there that are developing those engines for the feeder series, it's not a complete. It's not like you have to reinvent the wheel to go from a Indy Lights engine to a full blown IndyCar engine. So I mean, there is always potentially that sort of fear of the unknown, and you look in the Formula One realm where Honda have struggled over the last few years to be competitive. Maybe there is part of that. Maybe they're a little bit scared of failure.
Yeah, because they don't really show very well during the 24 hours or anything. I mean, everybody's excited to see them, but when it comes down to it, like where are they during halfway through the race? They're just not even close.
Well, that's at the Roar. I think they were like 8th, and they were like almost 20th.
Yeah.
It was actually they were 8th and 20th at the Roar, and one car was running okay, but the car back in 20th was the last prototype, the last DPI at the Roar with a 142.1, and that is at Daytona. That's like first generation Daytona prototype. That's first generation DP times. It's not good pace.
No, I mean, especially, look at them. They've always been a prototype. They've never been a DPI ever. It's just like, but I think it's their engine they're working with. It just seems like when you read, what each manufacturer is bringing to the table in DPI, and you read Mazda, you go, ugh.
Yeah.
I did that up until I heard that Yost was coming back to manage that program, and if anyone can turn it around, it's Yost. I mean, those
Very true.
They are about as switched on as you can get when it comes to managing a race team and getting them to the front of whatever grid that they're on. But it obviously in the off season, they didn't have a ton of time last year to really fiddle around with the car. It's the car's still gorgeous, but they need to find some pace, man.
That's very true. Excuse me. Yeah, and the BOP, make sure that everybody who's racing in that series is at 600 horsepower. So Mazda's racing at 600 horsepower. It's just, I guess, something to do. I don't know.
Are we sure they're racing at 600 horsepower though?
Well, according to IMSA's BOP specs, they are. But...
Yeah, but if they're only running at 520, they don't have to be BOP'd at that point. If they don't have the power, I don't know. I don't know whether
they're not
down
restricted
on power
in any way, though.
I know they're not restricted, but that's what I'm saying. Like, is the driveline even capable? And
that's the problem. I don't think so.
Like the Cadillac, they could run at 600 horsepower for 24 hours. They could probably run at 600 horsepower for 72 hours and be fine with that big honking V8, even though they've gone to a smaller V8 now.
I was going to say, they did downsize it, yeah.
Yeah, they downsized it, but who cares? It's still over 5 liters. It's still a big power plant. It's making plenty of torque, and obviously it shows because they just restricted them again.
I know. Like, they're throwing so many restrictions on the cat, and rightfully so. They dominated last year.
They're sucking air through McDonald's straws now, basically.
Yep.
That's the next step, is to go from the McDonald's straw to the Burger King straw, which is a little small.
Well, here's the important question. Did they mess with the Corvettes?
No, not really.
Yes. That's all I care about.
GTLM is pretty much, again, 600 horsepower. GTLM.
As long as they leave the Corvettes alone.
They might restrict the fuel intake, but that's a pit. That's just a pit stop thing. Really has not much to do with performance. That's just how long the fuel goes in, or how fast.
It's speeds at the Roar Corvette was 2nd and 5th in GTLM.
Sure was the number 4. Yes.
And both of them were in the 43s. So I mean, both of them were on pace.
That's right.
How the new BMWs look?
BMWs 7th and 8th.
They are beautiful.
For the Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan cars, the M8s. Do you like them, really?
I really do, yeah. I really like them. Yeah, I like them better than last year's. I'll give it that.
I want to like them, but they're so big.
That's what I like about them. I mean, the Vet's big too.
Land yachts. No, I was really partial to the Z4. The Z4 GT3 the Z4 GTLM, whatever you wanted to call it in that series, and the GT3 spec car all over the planet. That Z4 was just rude in all the right ways. It just made me happy.
She had a great butt. I want to say the other words.
It's a gorgeous car.
Oh my god, what a great looking car! Yeah, and then when they changed it to that big sedan, basically, it was like, ugh, what are you doing? Was that a 4-door out there?
Yeah,
it was.
The biggest car that should be on any track as a race car right now is the Bentley GT3. And I only like it just because, proportionally, the Bentley to me looks right.
It looks awesome.
To see that car pounding around and just hear what it sounds like when it's at full song, man, it makes me happy.
Isn't it a V10?
Is it a V10 or is it that W drive line? I thought it was a W drive line.
I think it's the W, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm asking. I'm not like formulating a statement of no.
Yeah,
I was asking.
I think it's the W8. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think I mean that would make sense because that's what's in the Continental GT.
Well, now for the fans out there that don't know what a W8 is, Sean, you want to school them and me on it?
It's just a really weird configuration that VW came up with, where and Richard, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's literally like, it's kind of like their VR6, where the VR6 was not a straight 6, it was a very shallow V 6-cylinder motor. So it kind of had they had 3 cylinders, and then the other 3 cylinders were offset. I can't remember what the angle is on it. So the W takes the same concept, but it gives you 2 banks of that and connects it together with the crankshaft. Am I making sense, Richard, or am I?
That's pretty much where you are. Yeah, it's a very, very flat, low sling engine. Basically, you compress the engine and it helps reduce the center of gravity. It makes it a lot shorter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a cool configuration. I've driven a couple Continental GTs on track. They're giant boats in street trim, but the engine it's so smooth, man. It's weird because as much power as they make, I think they're over 550, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And because they're 5,000-pound cars and they've got all the torque in the world, it doesn't hit you in the back like a 911 Turbo or like a GT2 RS or something like that. But the acceleration it feels linear. It feels like an electric motor. You just you put your foot to the floor and the world starts going by faster and faster in a rapid pace. And you're like, I don't understand why we're going this fast. It doesn't
feel this.
Right. You don't feel, it's like honestly, it's like taking off in an airplane. It's like taking off in a 737. It's kind of like you're sat back in the seat, but nothing's really violent. And then all of a sudden you look at the speedometer and you're like, 187. How about that? It's crazy.
Does the car produce most of its downforce from underneath of it, or all the everything on top of it?
The GT3 spec car, or
The Bentley.
yeah, the GT3 spec Bentley.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I mean,
Where's most of its aero coming from?
Well, it's got the same flat panels that all the other GT cars have underneath them, but I mean, most of it is splitter diffuser giant wing.
Okay, gotcha. You know what? I for some reason I had the DPI car in my head when I answered that question. I don't know why. Sorry.
It'll be okay.
But then again, that car is so big. You who knows?
Don't. From now on, don't ask me engineering questions. Give those to Richard.
Whoa, steady.
Yeah,
I'm looking for work here. I don't want to make it sound stupid.
Yeah, and I mean, he might give me a good answer on the Bentley, but I mean, how much do you really know about it? Not much, I'm sure. I don't know.
I don't know a ton about it. It's not like I've driven the GT3 version of it.
I know it's a very, very impressive car.
It really is. It's impressive everywhere it runs. I mean, it doesn't matter where on the planet that those cars are running. They're just.
It's impressive because it just looks like a gentleman's car that you drive on a Sunday afternoon, but it can do some, ridiculous speed.
And then when you put your foot to the floor, it sounds like the Earth is exploding.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
They sound wonderful. And we're talking, we're going on and gushing about a car that's not running at Daytona.
Yeah.
Well, but she was the engineering for the LMP2 Bentley, right?
Lena?
Lee Nagati. She came over to IndyCar to Schmidt.
She was the engineer. You can be all right. She was the engineer for the GT program, actually.
Richard, you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay.
That wasn't me.
Oh, was that Missy?
Yeah, that was me going, yeah, for Lena.
Okay.
I'm not quite so excited, sorry.
I was like, wow, Richard's really into this.
No, that's me. Girl power in IndyCar.
No, she's a really good, a lead engineer. I mean, look what she did with Audi.
Yep.
She won, I think she was on their team when they won, 42, 43 Le Mans? Something like that.
Some crazy number, but...
They won all the Le Mans.
Pretty much. It's like 1, 2, 3. Or it was car 2, then car 1, then car 3 or something. But hey, her car won, so that's what matters. The first woman ever to win a 24-hour Le Mans. So that's pretty cool that she's now in IndyCar. It just gives IndyCar that more of that credibility. Plus, I mean, when you see a race like this is why I love the endurance races in IMSA, because when they need extra drivers, I mean, they just soak up all the IndyCar drivers and MRTI drivers from Indy Lights and whatever, wherever they can find, and bring them over, whoever wants to do it. And then after that, they just fill in the rest with other sports car guys, which I think is funny. But I'm proud of it. It's something to be proud of. Oh, yeah,
certainly, it's a good. It's an interesting what you guys think on the. Because obviously last year, one of the big stories from IndyCar last year was, of course, Alonso, driving the 500. Now, of course, he's doing the 24 this year, and also Lando Norris, who's one of the McLaren young development drivers, and Lance Stroll, the Williams F1 driver as well. So you've got two active F1 drivers and one guy who was on his way to F1. That doesn't seem to have had the same effect and generated the same buzz.
Well, that's IMSA's fault.
Well, yeah.
That's IMSA's fault when they
totally
merged with Grand Am. I'm still so bitter about that.
It's totally IMSA's fault. They should have capitalized on that via social channels much more than they did. No one outside of the sports car fan community or just the engineers and just everybody that's involved in sports car racing has any idea that Alonso's involved.
No.
Nope, not. Or Stroll or the development driver. I mean,
well,
it's ridiculous.
At the end of the day, no one cares that Stroll's involved. But I said that out loud.
Yeah,
sorry.
Well, wait a minute. Well, who's Stroll racing for?
Williams.
Jackie Chan.
Oh,
Jackie
right.
Chan, yeah.
Because I didn't see his name on the list.
The number 37 Jackie Chan. It's Orica.
Ah, there he is. Yep. Scrolled right over that.
He is.
Because I caught Felix Rosenquist.
He is one of the 20. You know what?
He's on Felix Rosenquist's team.
Oh, they won.
So I jumped right over his name to Felix Rosenquist.
That dude is a phenom, man. He's such a good racer.
Lance Stroll is so popular in the paddock that you didn't notice his name. You scrolled right over.
She focused on Felix Rosenquist, like you know.
I know who Felix Rosenquist is.
I know you do.
He's a great driver. I mean, he did Indy Lights and he took over every race for Indy Lights that he raced in. Like,
if he would have raced the whole season, he probably would have won every race. It seems, because he did whenever he came over. How many races did he race in Indy Lights? Like 4, maybe.
Yeah, 4 or 5. I think he won or podium on every one that he did.
Yep. Really
I forget what weekend was it. Was it Road America weekend that was he there?
No.
Which weekend he like dominated? Like it was just like he was like gone for like 2 weeks doing his other racing with Tristan in the Blanc Spain series that year.
Yeah, the Blanc Spain sprint series.
And then he like came back and he just like dominated everyone. I was like, why isn't he in Indy Lights full time? Like,
because he races 4 other series. He's got
I know. I mean, then again, you ask that question for some other drivers, that can't get funding or something. So,
I was up in Toronto last week doing a bunch of simulator work for a sports car shop up there, and there was a lot of talk about Blancpain and how amazing that series is. But every time anyone in Canada says Blancpain, it's Blancpain.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Blancpain.
Blah blah.
Blancpain.
You don't see too many Canadians, doing impressions. You notice?
Blancpain.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know what you just said. Well, I do, but if I didn't know, yeah.
Blancpain.
How do you spell that? Blah, Paul.
BLAHPAW.
Blah, pa.
Blah, pa.
Oh man. I mean, even the way you do spell it doesn't look anything like how it's spelled, though. I mean, or say it. I mean, however you say it, it does not. Yeah. I think it's said a little bit differently, really. You got to put like like Christian would say, you got to put some sasson on it when you say it.
Oh dear God.
Yeah. So at any rate, I
think there's a lot of drivers from other series this year.
Do you have
in the Daytona? Well, of course I do, but yeah, I mean, just looking through it, I think they're like from a lot of different series. There's a lot of drivers on here that I don't think were in there last year.
Excuse me. Like who?
I don't. You want me to go through the list or no? We're just
no. I don't want you to read the whole list. Just just notables. That's all. Names who people are listening would know.
Okay. Well, I mean, of course you got the Tequila Patron crew. They got Scott Sharp this year with Oliver Pla and Ryan Dizelle. I know I said it wrong.
DL.
DL.
Ryan Dalziel.
Yeah, really. I mean, his name is spelled so wacky the way, and then you hear him say it, you're like, what? Who? Okay.
And then, of course, you got the number 5 for Mustang Sampling Racing. You got Yao Barbosa, Felipe Albuquerque, and Christian Fittipaldi. And then here you go, the Acura Team Penske. Of course, they got 2 entries this year, and they have their one car is going to be Juan Pablo Montoya, Simon Pagino, and Dane Cameron. Their other car is going to be Elio Castroneves, Graham Rahal, and Ricky Taylor is joining them this year and left.
Did the Taylor brothers get into a fight or something?
No, not at all. Not at all. I got the backstory on this like as it was happening. Basically, it was kind of crazy. We were at I can't remember. It wasn't Petite. It was a couple races before Petite. We were at the track, and I overheard the conversation basically where Ricky was talking about he had an offer from Penske, and just basically sat down with his father, sat down with Wayne, and said, "Look, he's like, I love racing for you. I absolutely love racing for you, but Roger Penske wants me to come race for
You don't
him."
say no.
And he's like, there wasn't a fight, there wasn't a falling out, there was nothing like that. It's Ricky and Jordan. They still like each other, and Wayne still loves them both. It's as far as I know. But it was just kind of like I had this chance to go race for Penske, and I have to. I have to go do it. And it had to be a tough decision considering how well they ran last year. It couldn't have been easy to go, yeah, I'm going to go jump in this new Acura that's never been raced before and leave a car that dominates every time it hits the racetrack.
They won every race, didn't they? Almost.
Not every race, but I mean they had what they have four in a row. They started the season with like 4 in a row, and then they podiumed a couple, and they won a couple more, and they killed it last year. They dominated in almost Audi-like fashion, for WEC if we're making comparisons. But
definitely did.
If you look at Acura though, and you look at Penske running those cars at the Roar, they were what were they? They were 5th and 6th at the Roar.
Already, right out the box.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, right out of the box. And the only thing I think faster than them were Cadillacs.
Makes sense.
And the Cadillacs only had them by like a second and a half. So they're not crazy off pace. But that's Penske.
No. Right on.
No, I mean, Jordan has some decent teammates now. He's got, I think, Renger van der Zande is his permanent teammate now and taking Ricky's spot.
Missy.
Yep.
And now Brian Hunter-Reay is also racing, with them. So
I can't believe he's 37.
They're racing for Conoco Minolta Cadillac, which their copier sucks.
Sure does. Sure does. I hate Minolta. I've never used it.
Yeah, I don't like it. Anyway, moving on. Then you got Bar Motorsport, Bar Want. Nobody really popping out there. Got Tequila. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Fernando Alonso is racing for United Autosports, and his teammates are Lando Norris and Phil Hansen.
Whoever was cheaper, I'm sure, because they paid a lot of money.
Lando Norris is the McLaren development driver, so that's how he's got in there.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So he's part of the McLaren and the Zach Brown love in there.
Right on. They probably did that. It's like you watch him, make sure he doesn't do anything stupid, because
I mean, he's a good driver.
No trampolines.
Yeah, he's a competent driver. Is he sort of a Formula One sort of standard driver? I don't think he's going to be a big name, but it's certainly good for the kid to get out there and get some experience in a race like that.
It's funny, Richard. What you're saying is so basically what he does, other than what he's doing next weekend, is the grand prize for the women's league, right?
Well, he'll go to the. I don't know if he's officially their reserve driver, but he'll typically, if he's the reserve driver, he'll go to the races and sort of stand in if somebody gets food poisoning or whatever the night before the race, and
or kidnapped in Brazil or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most Formula One teams, they'll make sure that their drivers don't eat at the same restaurant. They don't, all this sort of stuff, all sort of, Secret Service sort of level of stuff. But they don't want 2 drivers coming down being sick. And also, he'll do a lot of work in their simulator back at the the facility. So these development drivers do put the fair share of work in them, because of those commitments. They typically can't drive in another series. They're not allowed, under the rules, they're not allowed to drive in the feeder series that supports the Formula One races, because I believe they may have changed the rules, but I believe the rules were that if you are entering a Formula One race, you can't take part in another race that weekend at the same venue, so they can't take part in any of the feeder series races or anything like that. So they are purely development drivers and backup drivers.
Oh, okay, right on. That's kind of weird. It's like they're only development drivers. Give them a chance to get some track time.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's part of it, really. But everything is done in a simulator these days, and the drivers are so finely tuned and picked up from those events that I guess they can get everything they need to get out of it. Using those facilities.
I mean, it makes sense for what the car really is. It's not a car where the driver dictates what the car can do. It's kind of flip-flopped.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's like, it's like they give them a number. Like, here, this car can do this number. Good luck.
Yeah.
and if you're a second off, we're going to get rid of you. So
if you're a tenth off, we're getting rid of you.
Yeah, really. Three tenths off, you're gone. You got me. Like that's some high pressure.
That's
man.
about right. That's about right.
You have 10 laps to get this done.
Yeah.
If you don't get it done in those 10 laps, we'll make sure you never race again.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's just brutal.
And you better drive it back here in one piece because it's $30 million, motherfucker.
Yeah. So
boy.
that's where Lando Norris comes from. He's he's been pretty highly thought of. I don't know if he's going to be as big as some of the other drivers that have come through the McLaren young driver scheme like Lewis Hamilton and Stoffel Van Dorn, but he's certainly got some ability there.
Well, I mean, not for nothing, but Zach Brown and McLaren are doing something that's almost unprecedented in F1, letting these guys drive another series. Period.
Yeah, I mean, we're actually we're talking about that on Drafting the Circuits, the other show that we've recorded tonight, available on all good podcast sources, I'm sure.
Definitely go check it out. Frank Santoroski and Richard, and also was Joey Barnes on with you?
Joey was there. Krista Hardy sort of stopped in for a little bit. Gray was on there as well. No, we had a good little group for the first one of the year. But yeah, no. What Zach's doing, I mean, at the end of the day, it's to a greater extent it's in his interest because he, is owns United Autosport. I believe that's where he started out in motor racing, and then also, I don't know, CEO, I guess is his title at McLaren Formula One team. I don't know his exact title, but and also he's got a lot of links in with the Andretti Autosport as well. So. He certainly has a lot of influence in a lot of teams. So you could argue that it's in his own best interest to get Alonso and some of these guys in these cars and generating that exposure because it's good for his sponsors. But no, it goes back to sort of the old, I guess the days in like the 1950s, 60s, and 70s when you would have guys running Formula One races and the 500 and Le Mans and all this sort of stuff, and a lot of these series have become so, controlled that the drivers don't have the opportunity to go out and basically show off their skills in these other series these days. So it's good that they can do that. I mean, you've had, Graham Hill's won the 500. Guys like that. Did Jimmy Clark ever win the 500?
I almost want to say yes.
I know he's definitely competed in it. I should know, but I know he's definitely, and all that sort of stuff. You need that sort of cross pollination within motorsport, really, because otherwise the series becomes so insular. They lose their, motorsport gives itself a bad name. I think the exposure you get from having these guys move around. I mean, when you had more people watching Alonso, have his first test at Indy than watch the Phoenix IndyCar race. That says everything you need to know about Alonso's impact.
Which makes us scratch our heads even more trying to figure out why in the world IMSA didn't just take the story and run with it like crazy. We said earlier, no one knows Alonso's in that car for this race except for us.
Exactly, and it blows me away. Like, well, I mean, look at, what was it? 2 years ago, their race at Indy, they had 33,000 people watching on TV. That's it. It wasn't even enough people to register a single point on the rating scale, and that's what's happened to IMSA, man. Everybody's just kind of like throw their hands up, like, what are you doing? Like, I mean,
they are, but without a doubt, they are the most technically advanced cars in North America. They're probably in many ways beyond what you see in IndyCar.
Oh, yeah.
And way beyond what you see in NASCAR. And the only time anything goes above those is when the F1 cars race at Austin. Outside of that, they are the high end prototype cars there are the most technically advanced cars in North America, and they just like, yeah, whatever.
They are, but I mean, the only ones that are truly, well, I mean, the DPI cars, it's a step beyond Daytona prototype, but it's still a cost-controlled spec.
Yep.
The only ones that are truly amazing at this stage of the game are the Ligiers, the Oricas. Well,
no.
That's
GTLM, baby. Or
different class. Back it down.
Sorry.
It's just I don't look at a DPI and go, oh my god, that is technically amazing. The Mazda's beautiful. The Acura looks pretty cool. The Cadillacs are crazy fast for what they are, but they're no Toyota TS040. They're definitely not 18. They're not.
I mean, and talking about this, like, this is IMSA's problem. Their top level series is WEC's second tier. It's embarrassing.
But you've got to look at the money of it to a certain extent. Where you look at the budget of Toyota and Porsche and these guys and Peugeot, these guys that have been involved in that for a number of years now. I mean, their budgets are up there with the Formula One team in some cases. Hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
Oh, sure.
They got it. Oh yeah, but even a NASCAR obviously is far more financially secure than the IMSA series. You look at a Hendrick. I mean, a Hendrick Motorsport. If they suddenly turned around and said, right, we're going to produce a car that will go over to Le Mans, compete with the Toyotas and the Porsches and all these other, Audis and all of these cars that compete over there or don't compete anymore, whatever it may be. The Hendrick Motorsport budget for running 4 top-level Cup cars wouldn't cover what the leading WEC cars spend.
Oh,
it would barely cover Le Mans.
Exactly.
Just the transport alone.
It would barely cover Le Mans. The month leading up to Le Mans, the 4-car budget would barely cover that for a single car.
I know, but before they merged, WEC cars were still coming over to race, like this race or not this race, but I don't know if they raced this. I wasn't paying.
I mean, the Audis used to race at Sebring, didn't they?
That's at Sebring, yeah, because that's where I went to watch. I went to Sebring the last year IMSA was, the American Le Mans Series was alive. Just to see the Audis one last time before they never came here again.
I mean, we had Audis, Peugeots, we had all kinds of crazy, amazing stuff at Sebring.
It was awesome, yeah.
But here's the thing: next year, Sebring, we have the 24 hours of Sebring, and it's the 12 hours with. Yes, have you not heard about this?
No.
Next year for Sebring, it's the 24 hours. There's a 12-hour IMSA race and a 12-hour WEC race.
You're kidding, and they're not mixing together at all?
Nope, they're not mixing them together. The plan is to run the full 12-hour IMSA race. In that race, do the podium celebration, start the 12-hour WEC race at like 10 o'clock at night, and run it all the way through the night.
That's insanity.
I mean, if that's what they want to do to sort of highlight the differences between the series, and they're going about it the right way, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you really want to compare which one's better and why IMSA sucks so much, go to Sebring and see for yourself.
That's the problem. If I was Scott Atherton, I'd be like, no.
Yeah, why are they even letting that happen?
There's no way in the world I want to see those cars on the same track as our cars in the same weekend, because people are going to go, oh my God, this is what we could have.
Exactly.
And it's the same reason why, back in the day, and even now these days, I guess, the IndyCar don't go to the same circuits as Formula One cars, because it would highlight the speed differential, and that's the first thing that people would compare them to.
Yeah, which they shouldn't, because F1 cars are made to turn really fast, and Indy cars are kind of made to do everything really fast.
And you and I know that. And,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you and I know that, and probably the majority of the people listening here know that. But unfortunately, as we all know, the main exposure that people get to motorsport are through mainstream media, who aren't interested in trying to explain the technical differences between cars. They just go, "Oh, look, fast and slow."
Yep. pretty much. And I think that's the biggest problem with F1 and why their ratings are so low and everything right now. It's because they're having a hard time transferring to the television audience of how amazing these cars are. Like that one picture, the reason it went viral, that Nico Rosberg picture from Suzuka, the reason that picture went viral is because it was actually showing for the first time, it seemed like, hey, look what this car can do. I mean, that thing was fully loaded. It looked like it just got done flipping 15 times. But no, it was just turning right.
I think half of the half the problem is not trying to distract too much from what we're talking about, but a lot of these circuits that the Formula One cars go to these days, there's so much runoff and so much space. The cars are in the middle of nowhere. They're like in Bahrain, they literally are in a desert. Whereas when you see them around like Monaco and Singapore and places like that, you actually you have a visual reference that you can compare the cars to. You can go, oh, look, this car's driving down the high street at 200 miles an hour. Whereas if you're in the middle of a field at 200 miles an hour, it's not quite so impressive.
Yep, very true, very true. Yeah, and I think that's where F1 goes wrong by not addressing it or trying to convey what these cars can really do to the television audience, and that's why I think the television audience just looks at it like, oh, it's a parade. I'm watching a parade of cars. Right on. Yeah. Lewis Hamilton win. I didn't see that coming. Right on.
It's going to be interesting to see what the new owners, Liberty Media, they have made a lot of noise this off-season about changing the viewer experience, especially when it comes to the TV and streaming and embracing some of these new technologies. Because, and again, this is not trying to be derogatory in any way. In Europe, say, which is Formula One's biggest market, people there. I'm trying to pick my words carefully here. They can work out for themselves what Formula One is all about without it being explicitly shown to them. Whereas, from talking to people who watch Formula One in North America, especially, there's a lot. They're looking for something that's a little bit more, in your face, for want of a better word. Look, this is what the Formula One can do. And hopefully Liberty can bring that with their background from being, a US-based consortium.
Oh, go ahead, Sean.
No,
sorry.
I was just going to say, everywhere outside of the United States has had Formula One ingrained in their culture since the first day Formula One was a thing.
Yep.
And the United States really hasn't. And even sports car racing in this country, it's always a grassroots thing. And I don't know what it is about the culture here. I don't know if it can be attributed to the NASCAR thing, where it seems like race fans in this country, on the whole, I'm not saying that there aren't plenty of us that enjoy going to a good endurance race or a good IndyCar race, Champ Car race, Formula One race, whatever. But on the whole, the race fan in North America wants to go to Bristol because Bristol watching stock cars is just like going to the Colosseum in Rome and watching lions kill humans, basically.
Yeah, crashes.
It's
you can say it. It's crashes. Like the general public that watch racing, that makes up the bulk of the number. They're watching it for crashes. Yeah,
or in the United States,
sick.
not North America, because Mexico and Canada can't be lumped into that. Mexico massively involved in open wheel and sports cars, and like anytime if you go to Mexico City and go to the tracks down there, my God, the fan base is rabid. Canada, the same thing. They're just they're a lot more polite about it.
Okay, but there's a common theme there, isn't there? What is the difference between those, the two? You look at Mexico; they have a current top line driver in Sergio Perez. Lance Stroll from Canada, and they had the Villeneuves in Canada. The US really hasn't had a top line driver in Formula One, something for people to get behind.
I think a lot of that has to do with the team owners not wanting it. I mean, we heard what Haas said, or the team owner or the team engineer from Haas. I'm sure that's the same sentiment throughout the series.
it's a vicious circle, isn't it? It doesn't have the exposure in the US that it deserves, so the kids don't get into it, so the kids don't aspire to it. But then the reason it doesn't have the exposure is because they don't have the drivers. It's going to take, like you saw with Scott Speed to a certain extent, or Alexander Rossi. I mean, if you speak to Alexander Rossi, I mean, when I first heard him in an interview, I thought he was a British driver.
So did I.
He spent that long in Europe.
Yeah.
That, and that's the only way I think it's ever going to really work and really take off is if you get a kid who's, in his, early teens or whatever, saying, right, I want to go into Formula One, and he makes that move across to Europe, where the feeder series, and he'll be exposed to. I mean, you ask a Formula One team manager, who's won, the British Formula Ford series and the British Formula 3 and all this, and they'll probably be able to tell you the last 10 in a heartbeat. You ask them who's won the Indy Lights series or is it Mazda 2000 or whatever it's called?
They don't care.
They don't care, and they don't know because they're not exposed to it.
Exactly.
And that's half the problem. They have quite a select pool of talent that they pick from, rightly or wrongly. I don't know, but then you do get guys coming over to compete in Formula One that do get given the chances, and it never really works out. You look at Sebastian Bourdais, dominates in IndyCar, comes over to Formula One, and okay. And then going back a bit further, Alex Zanardi didn't really do anything when he was with Lotus, and then came over to the US, did well, then went to Williams. I mean, that was a complete farce. So, I mean, they gave him steel brake discs because he didn't like the carbon fiber brake discs in Formula One car.
Are you serious? They did that?
Yeah. He said, I can't drive these brakes. So they actually took the carbon fiber brake discs off and put the steel brakes on, which is what he was used to. That's quite a
that's a big difference, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
he can't stop as early as everybody else.
Let's talk unsprung weight. Let's just talk about that for a
it's
second.
probably doubling your braking distance. I said at least.
Yeah,
exactly. That's all I'm thinking about. Is like so were guys in Formula One just like dive bombing out of his way when he started braking because they? I think
he used it for like a test or something or a practice session, and they're like, yeah, no, this ain't.
All right. So he never actually raced with it. Okay.
No, I don't think he ever raced it, but it's so there is a this fundamental issue that getting people into Formula One from within the US. But then there's another thing which I guess I've seen over the last 3 years or so, if not longer, since I've lived over here. Name an international sport that is closely followed in the US.
This ties into exactly the point I was going to make about the U.S. public, the U.S. motorsport fan base, the U.S. sporting fan base in general across all sports truly does not give a rat's patoot about an international or an American driver on an international scene. They don't care. They don't care. Like we don't rally around that.
Yeah, if we hear that there's an American driver in F1, we're like, why isn't he in IndyCar?
Yeah. So, I mean, the only sports that I think that are even you get any exposure in the US that are based outside of the US is English Premier League soccer and golf. Outside of that, there is I can't think of many other sports.
But Premier League soccer is a niche.
But it's growing. But it is growing. It is growing. The whole sport, as the sport is as a whole in the US.
It's been growing for 50 years. It's still tiny.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure.
It's because Americans need things fast, boom, 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 boom. Like football is perfect for us. Football fits us perfectly because it's just like, okay, a bunch of action, quiet down, bunch of action.
Time for a commercial.
Exactly, and it's just like, but soccer, it's just like an ongoing. What the heck is going? Everybody's just chasing this damn ball. I don't know what's going on.
I'm married a Brit, and I think honestly that I have a British brain. Because American football to me is just ugh.
Really? You
But
don't
I
like football?
No, I can't stand it.
Wow.
I
Go
don't.
Eagles!
I just
Go Birds!
I race cars, man. That's all the bandwidth that I have. But as far as like sports go, I don't. The biggest complaint that I hear about European soccer, or proper football, as I like to call it, just throw that out there.
God. I just threw up in my mouth.
The biggest complaint I hear from Americans about it is there isn't enough scoring.
No,
yeah.
They can tie 0-0. It doesn't make any sense.
But
and then the plus time. What's the plus time for? I don't get that.
Let's say that let's say the match ends in 3-2. Let's say it was 3-2. Is that enough scoring for you, Frank, or no?
That sounds like a hockey score to me. So yeah.
Okay, so you're fine with that, but most people would be like, well, they end in 3-2, and then I have to actually point out
2 hours.
It's 3-2 in 90 minutes.
And then plus 20.
No, it's typically plus 4 or 5, 3-5.
I don't get the plus thing.
But it's stoppage time. It's when they have to stop and give a yellow card or whatever. We're not going to get into that right now. This is a motorsport show.
Know.
But
this could be a whole show in itself.
I know. Tell me about. Okay,
and this came from Lando Norris.
Yeah, there you go.
This is where we've come from Lando Norris.
Wow.
Well, all right. Let's. I think we should get grounded again. Okay, Missy. Moving on. Who do you see there?
Good job. Somebody's in control here, isn't it?
So you got Whelen Engineering Racing. They have Felipe Nasser. Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah, Nasser. Yeah. Nasser. Yeah.
Yep.
And then
he was the test driver at Williams while I was working there.
Oh, cool.
Nice guy. We had Felipe Nasser and Felipe Massa at the same time. Very confusing.
So did everybody go, "Hey, Felipe," and they both stop?
Yeah, basically.
Exactly.
And in Brazil, Nasser's pronounced Nasser. So you had Massa and Nasser. Oh, yeah.
Good God.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
So he's teaming up with Eric Curran, Mike Conway, and Stuart Middleton. Let's see, and then where I so neatly skipped over the Jackie Chan team, Lance Stroll is driving there with Felix Rosenquist, and they're also partnering with Daniel Juncadella.
Juncadella, yeah. I think he drove DTM for a while, German touring cars. I think that's where he comes from.
Robin
Frings.
This is my favorite part of Missy trying to say
well, they got
non-American
so
names.
Tiny. I can't even really. I mean, there's one further down the list I'm looking here. It's so stinking tiny because he's got 3 names. I don't even know if I'll be able to read it.
I don't know.
So hopefully it's nobody important.
And then just go to sports cars and go to drivers. They're all there. Big pictures.
Well, I'm on the IMSA website, so it doesn't matter.
The worst website ever for IMSA, by the way.
Yeah, I know. So, and then moving on. So then you have, after that, Performance Tech Motorsports. Of course, you got James French and Pato O'Ward. And they're partnering with Kyle Mason for this the Daytona 24.
Kyle Mason, right on. Never heard of him.
Yeah. And this is all the prototype category, by the way, that I've been reading off. And then here for AFS PR1 Matheson Motorsports, you got Sebastian Saavedra driving for them, and he's partnered with Gustavo Yakiman, Roberto Gonzalez, and Nicholas Boll. And let's see who else you got here. Then you got the Mazda team, Josette?
Joust.
Yost.
Or Yost.
Yost, yeah.
Sorry.
We just said that earlier, too.
Yeah.
Mazda team, Yost. You have Spencer Piggott there, teaming up with Jonathan Bomarito.
She called him Spigot, I think, the week before he came on the show in December.
Oh, I said his name a little too fast.
How does everyone not call him Spigot?
They do. A lot of people, tweet Spigot a lot. Well, they did.
Everybody has to call it.
It kind of died off a little bit, but it's going to come back.
Bring that back.
Oh, it will. Once the season starts going, it's going to come back.
Yeah, that needs to cycle back around. I love that.
We told him about it. He started laughing. Spigot, I've actually heard that a lot. over my life. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. People say my name too fast. It comes out. Sounds like
See?
Spigot.
I wasn't the only one. And then also their other partners, Harry Tinknell?
Yeah.
And then the other Mazda team, Yost, is Tristan Nunez. And his
Nice guy.
partners are going to be Oliver Jarvis and Renee Rast.
That
A
is
girl?
odd. That is really odd to see Renee Rast in a Mazda prototype. It's really strange.
She's hot.
Is he?
I know. I knew it was a dude. I never heard his name before, but I was figuring.
He's
French.
what does he drive? Porsche.
He was a Porsche Super Cup driver for a long time, and then
That's where I recognize the name from.
and then factory Porsche guy for a while, and now suddenly he's in a Mazda. It's interesting.
So moving down the list here, you have JDC Miller Motorsports. They have Austin Cindric racing for them. And he's teaming up with Robert Alon, Simon Trummer, and Devlin DiFrancesco.
Sounds about right.
And then you have Spirit of Daytona Racing, which will be Tristan Vautier with Matthew McMurray and Edward Cheever.
Eddie Cheever the third.
I was really happy to hear that Tristan got a ride with Spirit of Daytona. That's great.
I'm just happy to see Spirit of Daytona back. I thought they were done.
Same here. Number 90, right?
Yep.
Is that the Visit Florida?
Yep.
That's it. Okay.
And Tristan Vautier, good for him. I'm happy for him.
And then your last car in the prototype category is another JDC Miller Motorsports and Steven Simpson and with Misha Goinkberg, and they're teaming up with Chris Miller and Gustavo Menendez. No, that's not how you say that. Like Menendez. Sounds good.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And my favorite, GTLM. Woohoo!
Yep.
Did you get the second Jackie Chan car?
Well, I skipped over that one because
Okay.
there wasn't anybody of interest in there. That I recognize anyway, and I can name them. It's Ho Pin Tung.
That's the one right there. You can't not say that name. You have to say that name.
Then you got Alex Brundle. Let's see this. Oh God.
And Brundle's awesome.
I was going to say Missy. You didn't say Alex Brundle. He's kind of a big deal. He's really good, yeah.
He's the son of one of the Martin Brundle, who was a Formula 1 driver in the 80s and 90s, and he's now the lead announcer for the British TV coverage of Formula 1. So he's a pretty big name.
Yep.
Well, I mainly skipped it because they got this 3 name here that's so stinking tiny.
Antonio Felix da Costa.
Yeah, that guy. That one's not as tiny. Then they got another one here. I think it says Fernando.
It's Ferdinand
Hasberg.
Lothring. I can't even read the last name. It's so stinking tiny.
I only wanted you to say Ho Pin Tung. That's all I wanted.
Of course, making fun of me already.
No, stop making fun of me.
No, Miss, you're doing a great job. You've said some names that I probably wouldn't even get, and I recognize them when you said them. I'm like, good job, Miss.
There's another weekly chat show that revolves around motorsport. Every time they say Ho Pin Tung, they cut to an ABBA track that just says hoping, and it's wonderful. It's just the best.
Or play a track of like Kim Kardashian talking, maybe.
It's great.
Oh God, no.
About your Corvettes. Now, all you really want to do is talk about your Corvette, so go ahead and talk.
Exactly. So there's the number 3 Corvette. Not my favorite, but it is Corvette. So that's Jan Magnussen, of course, followed with Antonio Garcia, and Mike Rockefeller, of course, is coming back. And then the only one that matters, number 4 of Oliver Gavin, Tommy Miller, and Marcel Fassler will be joining them again this year. Yeah, go number 4.
And they were second at the Roar with a 1:43.640. They were only 300ths off the top GTLM time at the Roar.
Yes, which was the freaking Ford again.
That I can't. I can't abide by that. I'm not a fan of
Briscoe's Ford?
It was
No,
Mueller,
it was
Bourdais.
not.
Mueller,
Yeah, it
Bourdais,
was-
and Hand.
Yeah.
It was that car. I don't know.
Okay.
Don't know who turned the lap, but
Probably Hand. He's
any of
good,
those guys could have. I mean, it's any of those guys could have laid that down. None of them are slow. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. If Ganassi or Penske asked you to race for him, you just say yes right away. You know.
Immediately.
Like, I mean, Ed Jones. I mean, you know, Dale needs to kind of understand that. He needs to get over it. You know. So, moving on.
Yeah. So, and then you have the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan, the BMW team. The one, of course, is John Edwards. Then he's got like 4 other partners. You have Jesse Krohn, Nikki Katzberg, Augusto Farfus. Oh, look, I recognize this name. Colton Herta.
They have
Colton
5
Herta.
dudes in one car?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other car has the same. Wait a minute. Well, Colton Herta is apparently going to be going back and forth between them because he's on both of their rosters for both cars. The other car
Okay.
has Alexander Sims, Connor DeFelipe, Bill Auberlin, Philip Ing, and Colton Herta. And then you have Risi Competition. Apparently, their one driver is going to He-Man the whole 24 hours. They only got one listed.
Who's listed?
Alessandro Pierre Goldi.
Because Tony Vilander is supposed to be in that car. James Collado, and I can't remember the fourth, but there's
Davide Rigon is what Wikipedia says.
Gotcha.
Once again, IMSA.
And Wikipedia must be right.
Make it look
I
stupid.
told you,
Don't
why
even
are
have
you
the
on
whole
IMSA's?
drivers. Well, because I don't know, it's a IMSA 24 hours of Daytona race. I would think they'd have their whole freaking lineup on their website.
It's only 3 days away.
Yeah.
Every
can change.
every
They're not
driver
really
racing
sure.
it has many laps under their belt already for this year, but that's not put their name on the website or anything.
Next, you got the Ford Chip Ganassi's. The one team is, like we said, Joey Hand, Derek Mueller, and Sebastian Bourdais. And then the other one's Ryan Briscoe, Richard Westbrook, and Scott Dixon will be there.
On. Briscoe
Well,
and Dixon's winning.
While we're there on the Ford GTs, does anyone in this conversation like those cars?
Negatory.
No.
What, like them? In what way?
I find them annoying
Repulsive.
for some reason. Yeah, I don't know why. I just don't
It's
like
Ford.
the Ford GT. Well, it's not that I like Mustangs. The Mustangs are fun. They're raw and ridiculous and cool, but everything about the Ford GT, the new iteration of the Ford GT, I think it revolves around the fact that it's a V6 turbo. It's just the wrong power plant for the.
So if somebody rocked up with one of those on your driveway and gave you the keys, you'd say, "No, don't want that."
I would take it. I would take it, sell it, and go buy two. I'd take it, sell it, and go buy 2 Viper ACR Extremes.
Extreme. That's awesome.
I don't dig them. I really don't dig them, and I don't fit in them. They're like Lamborghinis. I don't fit in Lamborghinis. I don't fit in Huracans, and I don't fit in Gallardos at all. Therefore, they're dead
Me
to
neither,
me.
man. You know, I mean, when I was driving my Lamborghini the other day, I was like, this thing's uncomfortable. I need to switch this in or trade it in. Oh, God. Could you tell
So
it was
moving
a lie?
on. Yeah, moving on. So you got the Porsches, the 2 Porsches, the 911s. You have Nick Tandy, Patrick
Right on.
Pilet, and Frederick Macarecki.
No, Macawicki. Say it right. He
I
deserves.
did, Macarecki.
No,
I said
Macawicki.
Recchi.
You're the Corvette he
And
took out didn't know what he was doing.
What? You know what? I'm gonna move right on because whatever.
Macawicki.
Totally not true. And then the other Porsche, you have Lawrence Vanthor, Earl Bamber, and Gia Maria Bruni.
Yeah, you butchered
And
that one.
that's your. Yep, sure did. And that's your short little list for GTLM.
Yep. I swear at Grand Am whatever they're just attempting to destroy the GTLM class every year. They do something else to just make it smaller and smaller. It's ridiculous, and they still come in first at Petite. Moving on.
And I mean the GTD class. I mean you got names that stick out. You got Bruno Giancaro racing for 3GT Racing. Also racing for 3GT Racing in the other car. While Bruno's teammates are Kyle Marcelli and Dominic Bowman. Yeah, sounds good. And then the other 3GT Racing car, Jack Hawksworth is racing that one with Scott Pruitt, Dominic Fanbacher, and here's another teeny name, David
Hannemeyer Hansen.
I was gonna say something that starts with an H.
It's Hannemeyer Hansen.
Starts with an H.
And those the 3GT cars are the new Lexus RCFs, and those are some weird rides, man. Like last year, I was at the 24 last year, and they never sounded like they were spinning those cars higher than about 4,200 RPM.
Oh, it was just like
they sounded so flat and so just they're I don't know, it's like I wanted to see like Schlep Rock as one of the names on the side of the car because they sounded very unhappy to be racing.
Well, I don't want to be here.
Really, that's the cars are like, I really don't want to do this.
I didn't want to get up.
Yeah, they just sounded beyond lazy. I hope they're better this year. I really do.
Somebody coughed on me when they were working on me.
Seriously. I think I have the flu.
Hi, bird. It's like, it's like the Snuffleupagus of IPSA.
It totally is.
Oh, my goodness. Hi, bird. Got a cold, bird. Need some smack, bird. All right, moving on.
Let's try and see who else sticks out here.
It's not going to get any better than that. I think if anybody is expecting more after that, they're in the wrong place.
Where's Christina Nielsen racing, miss?
She's racing for Wright Motorsports this year with the Porsche 911.
Right on. Move to Porsche. Smart girl. Wins a championship, goes to Porsche.
Whoa, 2.
Oh, excuse me.
Whoa, 2.
Whoa, 2 championships.
It is really weird seeing her in a Porsche. Very strange.
I'm happy about it.
Are you really?
I'm a big Porsche fan. Yeah.
He's a Porsche.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Porsche, but she just did so well in the Ferrari. It's kind of weird.
Right, and now she's going to get into a better car and do even more great things.
We shall see. I mean, she's running with Patrick Long, so
exactly, great racer. A lot of experience.
Her partner's still with Ferrari, Alessandro Bolzan.
Who?
Nope, not falling for it. Then the other Scuderia is still Bill Sweedler and Townsend Bell, and they're also having Sandberg and Frank Monte Calvo.
Yes, what? Oh.
That's his name. Then you got, Hart, Team Hart, I guess what their name is. They're doing an Acura. And they got Sean Rahal, Ryan Eversley, Chad Gilsinger, and John Falb.
Oh, right on. Sean Rahal's racing in it? Right on.
Yep.
And that's actually the Ohio factory, Honda factory team. And it's like everybody that's crewing on that car works for Honda. They're like engineers and all kinds of folks from Honda. It's crazy.
They did really good in the feeder series to WEC last year.
Yeah. I mean, they've got Tom O'Gorman driving for them in Pirelli World Challenge, and they're developing a whole lot of stuff in the States that's being fed out all over the world. So it's cool to see what the Honda factory does. I mean, those guys, whatever they build, they race. It's crazy. They even have race Odysseys.
What's that?
They race the Odyssey minivan.
Oh, no kidding. That
in
sounds
Honda
really
Challenge.
weird.
And I used to do driver development work with the team years back when they first started, and they had a turbo, like a custom turbo 3.5 stock motor with a sheet metal intake and a big Garrett ball bearing turbo on it, and manual transmission out of an Acura TL. It had a 6-speed manual in the minivan. It was 550 horsepower, and gutted cage, aim dash. It was a race truck. It was insane. And yeah, those guys, if they build it at the factory, they race it. We used to rally cross a Passport. Actually, we used to take from the Honda factory down here in Alabama. They had 3 or 4 Honda Accord EX V6 with leather package cars, navigation and everything. And we used to rally cross them.
Right on. That sounds great. With an Odyssey?
It was wonderful. But no, we didn't rally across the Odyssey. The Odysseys were road course stuff. And they have the current generation Odyssey. They race it in NASA, and the NASA sanctioning body in the Honda Challenge Series. And they actually run really well. The same guy, Josh Ferran, who drives their Pirelli World Challenge touring car, the Honda Accord in PWC, drives the Odyssey in Honda Challenge at NASA, and they're fast, man. That Honda, every time I see a Honda Odyssey now, I'm like, race car.
I don't think I could when I say I'll go, race car.
They're so much faster than you think they should have any right to be on a racetrack. It's a really good chassis.
It seems like it would be too top heavy.
Nope, not when you gut it.
Oh, that's true.
Gutted cage. They had a carbon fiber lift gate, carbon fiber hood, flat floor. Yeah, I'll send you some pictures. It's ridiculous.
Right on. And speaking of Sean Rahal, he's been on the show a few times, and he was the first one to actually ever defend Lance Stroll and tell, like, you know how everybody was jumping all over him, like, oh, his dad paid a crap load of money so he could go to Williams, you know. He was the first one to say that that's not true. It's a rumor.
Even if his dad did pay a crap load of money for him to go to Williams, they're just mad that their dad doesn't have enough money to pay for them to go to Williams.
I guess if you want to get technical, it was his dad's company that wrote the check, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
It's not technically his dad.
Not technically, no, but people just kind of took what they wanted to hear and ran with it. Pretty much.
And I guess the only other notable one here, I guess, would be Michael Shank Racing. Catherine Legg, AJ Allmendinger is on her
the road race ringer
crew. Yep. And you have Alvaro Perant and Trent Hinderman. And the other car you have Justin Marks, Lawson Ascherbach, Mario Farnbacher, and
it's Lawson Aschenbach.
Yeah, sounds good.
It was my first interview ever before I ever did this show. I saw him at Sebring. He was racing in the GT3 Cup class, right? They were the last car all the way at the end. He was really cool, but his fellow teammate driver, what a D.
And I don't want to say the last name.
Why?
Of the last person on there.
Why?
Eh.
Go on. I don't know what it is because I didn't pull up IMSA, so.
Come Lettergar?
Who? Say that again?
I don't wanna.
I didn't hear you.
I think it's Combe.
You
Combe?
broke up.
Combe. And,
Cool.
and
Did he come back? What'd you say?
Just because I have a couple friends racing for them, P1 Motorsports has an AMG GT3 running in GT Daytona, and Kenton Cook and Robbie Foley are two of the drivers in that car. They're driving with JC Perez and Laura Spinelli. And Kenton won the 24 Hours of Daytona with JDC Miller in LMP2 a couple years ago. Or it was LMPC, I think, a couple years ago. And Robbie Foley has gone through the Mazda Road to 24 program and just killed it the whole time he's been going through that program. And Robbie's actually still going to college down here at Auburn, and he's been a friend of mine for a long, long time. So I just wanted to say best of luck to those two guys and that team. And the cool thing, the AMG GT3 that they're running is silver with purple graphics, and the hood was designed by Andy Blackmore. And Andy Blackmore puts together a really cool spotter's guide if anybody wants to download that for the 24. But it looks like a monster on the hood of the car, and the grill looks like teeth and a mouth. And it's a neat looking car. Really neat looking car.
I'm looking at it right now. It's crazy looking.
Silver. That's what the letters stand for. Got it.
Wait, they put a color on there and they just put a letter of the color?
No, they put a letter next to all the drivers' names, and I was trying to think what the heck it means, but once he said silver, I was like, their driver status. Silver,
license.
bronze, yeah, their license.
Right on.
They're completely arbitrary license structure that really doesn't mean anything. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? I apologize.
It's okay. It's the truth.
It's ridiculous.
We do not hide from the truth on this show, no matter how ridiculous it sounds. So, anyways, well, depending on what it is, I guess. It sucks.
What's the
I
P
missed
stand
James
for?
French. He texted me back at 11, and that was like 52 minutes ago. Oops.
Oh.
Well, I mean, I mute my phone when we do this so it doesn't go beep. It's unprofessional.
Sorry.
So there's your most of your lineup for the Roar, or not the Roar. God, the Rolex 24 happening this weekend. I think qualifying is tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Is it being aired?
No, on IMSA TV it is, or IMSA.TV.
Okay. Well, do you have the TV schedule for the weekend?
Yeah, I have it.
No, let's do it so we can wrap this up.
So I'm assuming it starts at 2:30. I guess it's on IMSA.TV from 2:30 p.m. to 11:55 p.m.
You're
and
kidding.
Then
that's all it's at. It's not on any network.
I'm getting there. And it's got here from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. It's on Fox. Then from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. it's on FS2. Then from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. it's on Fox Sports Go. Then from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. it's on Fox Sports 1. Let's see. Then you got 12:05 a.m. to 2:40 p.m. It's going to be on IMSA.TV. Then from 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. it'll be on Fox Sports Go. 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. it'll be on Fox Sports 2. 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. it'll be on Fox Sports Go. And then it's finishing up from 10:30 a.m. to 3. I guess
so
3 p.m. on Fox Sports 1.
What are you saying? Like,
that's
are you jumping all over the clock?
No, that's how they have it listed on the website.
It is so insane what you have to do.
I know.
And I try to do it every year.
Basically, just stay on Fox Sports Go the entire time because it's there.
Yes, if you have Fox Sports Go, 25 hours of continuous coverage is available on Fox Sports Go. I know that for a fact.
Yep, because that's how we watched it last year. We just left it on because it was getting insane trying to find it.
The only problem with being on Fox
This is last year. It's going to be on Fox, right?
God, I hope so.
Well, I thought they announced it. They're not going to re-sign or anything.
Can I talk about finding streams? Can I talk?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Just real quick. Yeah.
I can't watch North American broadcasts of motorsport anymore just because I can't deal with the commercial breaks every 3 minutes. So I look for live streams from Europe or the UK.
Motors TV normally covers it.
Yeah, Motors TV, Sky Sports. It's just wherever I can find the motorsport feed from anywhere but this country, just because it is literally like it's 3 minutes of racing and here's 14 minutes of commercials. It's maddening.
It really is. Yeah.
I would gladly pay $50 for this race to just give me the Radio Le Mans feed for the commentary and just give me the closed circuit TV feed.
Yep.
That's all I need.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what we do. We have our iPads open, MacBooks open with all the the telemetry, the different teams that because they give you like different well, they did last year. I don't know if they will this year or not. But you can watch some of the race from different cars. So we got that set up all over the place. So I mean, we try to do it right. But it's so hard to. That's why I said Fox Sports Go and then just IMSA.com. It's the two best places to go to really watch the whole thing. And Missy tries to Iron Man it every year. She fails every year, but she got really close last year. She did 21 hours last year. I was impressed.
Wow.
She sat on that recliner behind. Well, you can't see it, but it's a really nice pillow type recliner behind me. She sat there for 21 hours last year and watched the race. I was wow.
I used to be able to knock it out, but I can't do it anymore either.
She even wears a diaper so she doesn't have to get up. Folks.
Congratulations.
Oh, God.
That is dedication right there.
Disgusting.
That's awesome.
Yep. And I think all right. Once again, Sean, where can they find you? And if they're down in your area, where can they listen to you at?
On 0 to 60, we're a local FM radio station, 99.9 APH radio in Birmingham, Alabama. We actually have the APH radio app that's available on both iPhone and Android, and you can listen to us anywhere on the planet. APH radio app has a live function, so Saturday mornings from 9 to 11 Central, we're on APH radio. If you're not here in Alabama and Birmingham, you can listen to us wherever you're at. And then you can find me on Modern Mopar Magazine's Facebook page all the time. I'm typically the guy that's in there just posting silly stuff constantly.
Yeah,
hanging out, talking about big Hemis. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Rock on. And that app again, it was AP what? I'm sorry.
APH Radio.
APH Radio
Yep.
app. All right. Definitely download that app and check out Sean every Saturday. So right on. I'm happy you're still doing that, Sean.
Yeah, it's fun. We're going on 2 years.
I know. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I remember the last time you were on, you were talking about it. So that's awesome, man. More power to you. Very, very happy for you, man.
Thank you, sir.
And Richard, where can they find you at, and where can they hear you at, buddy?
Drafting Circuits on the Hoobazoo Radio Network. I believe it's on iTunes podcast as well now, and a couple of other places. Possibly Frank normally deals with all of that. So
wherever podcasts are listened to, it's there.
It's there somewhere. Yeah. If you look hard enough, you'll find it.
I guarantee you, whatever you're listening to this show on, I guarantee you'll find Drafting the Circuits on the same app.
Yep.
Or however you're listening. RedDragonsRadio.com, maybe. But hey, we appreciate it if you are. If not, iTunes is fine too. But and all you Droid users, there's plenty of them out there. Yeah. Podbean.com's preferred. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, you guys are on Podbean as well, so there you go.
There you go. That's something I didn't know.
Dude, there's like 50 apps that were on there.
I'm sure there are. It's crazy.
Yeah. Tell me about it. There's so many podcatcher apps out there now. Right on. Guys, thank you for coming on. This was a lot of fun getting ready. I'm actually excited for the 24 now, and I wasn't before we started this show. I was just doing it because I know it's the next race coming up. So I'm like, well, we got to do him. So
it's going to be a great race. The 24 is always a great race. The driver lineup's insane. It's going to be fun to watch. And
I would say about the best driver lineup I've ever seen.
The last 5 or 6 years have all been like, there's no way that they can possibly get a better driver lineup. Oh my God, they did. It's like every year. It's been it's. I mean, as much as we want to complain about IMSA, they're doing something right when it comes to this race, at least, because it is pretty epic. And I'm actually looking. Yeah, right. I'm looking at a way to set up a multi-chat room for the race. Like, I'm going to have some folks over to the house to watch it, but I'm going to try to set up like a 10 or 20 person chat channel and then go OBS Studio to Twitch and then broadcast over Twitch, just us hanging out, watching the race either here at the house or digitally people logging in from all over the world and broadcast it on Twitch. Just us talking about the race the whole time. So if y'all went in on that, man, I'd love to have you.
And where's the best place to go to kind of link themselves to it? Your Facebook page?
It'll be on my Facebook page, on Sean Yoder on Facebook, or 0 to 60 on Facebook. You'll be able to find it there as well.
Right on. There you go. Awesome, man. Well,
cool.
Hopefully we get some ISCP fans up in there and representing and having a good time with you. So right on. I'll probably stop in and say hi. You know, I mean,
might as well.
Yeah.
It's 24 hours, man. It's a long time.
Got plenty of time. I might stop in 2 or 3 times even.
There you go. Nice. Every once in a while, just you or Missy pops in. Did you see that? Yeah, saw it. Cool. Be back in a minute.
Missy's vets in first. I know.
Yeah.
Make it stop.
You see McElrecky take my Porsche or Corvette out? He did it right in front of her at Lime Rock. She blew her gasket, dude. She was freaking out on the hill at Lime Rock.
I got to see a meltdown at Petit Le Mans a couple years ago. I had a really good friend. We were standing at the bottom of the hill at 10A, and it was the last lap of the race, and Tony Vilander comes over the hill in the Ferrari, and he's going like 3 miles an hour. And Emmanuel is like, "Great job, Vilander! Hell of a race!" He's arms in the air, cheering. He's so happy. And I just kind of looked at him and went, "The race isn't over, eh?" And he goes, "No, there's no way he'd be slowing down." And the vet just goes screaming. One of the vets goes screaming by him, and I was like, "There's your new winner." And he just burst into tears. I was like, he ran out of gas, dude.
Oh no. Oh no. What year was this?
Wonderful to see it. It was like 4 years ago, I think.
Was it raining pretty good that day?
It might have been raining at that one. I think it was raining at that one. I think it was one of the ones. It actually ended up running into the night. It wasn't the one that was red flagged early and they never started back up.
You were there for that one?
Yeah, I was there for that one.
You didn't notice like a half naked guy running down the street during like
oh my
4
god!
o'clock, did you?
Was that you?
Yeah, that was me.
We left the track that year around 3:30 and went over to Key West when there was a Key West Bar and Grill place like right down the street from the track, and we just started drinking. It was like, this isn't worth it.
Yeah, I mean I left because there was really nothing left to do, and then it was raining like heck, and yeah, I parked at the Lanier Raceway across the street.
Nice.
Not
really. I got attacked by 15,000 red ants.
Alright, and you can find all of our stuff at www.theindysportscarpodcast.com. And I believe on that note, before we have to suffer through that story again, you know, I know, that Sean and Richard know, there's 24 hours of racing this weekend, you know?
Yeah, man.